North Americans have become hopelessly addicted to information. The idea that at any moment in time when it strikes you, you can pick up your phone or sit down at a computer, scroll through your newsfeed, read a few articles, and know what's happening around the globe, up to date, in a matter of minutes. We are addicted to this. Not knowing what's happening a state over? Okay, we're fine with that. But we for sure have to know what's happening half a world away. If it's an earthquake, or if it's a volcano, or if it's a flood. Even though it'll have nothing to do with us. We may not even know what's going on in the next county. But we'll definitely know what's going on in D.C. or New York or California. You see, that's going to be the trap. When the power goes out and the grid goes down. That need, that want, that desire is not going to go away. And people are going to be clamoring and screaming for any kind of information they can get. Would you like proof of this? What if I told you it was already going on? That the information being put out by countless news sources isn't good enough for some. This is Southern Prepper 1. He's had a channel here on YouTube for a long time. Over the last couple of months, he has been doing this series called Boots on the Ground. He does it every single day. Now the grid is up. And there's the internet. And there's email. And he has people inundating him with their own private assessments and intelligence reports about what's going on in their local areas. And he's putting all that information together. Good for him. Fantastic. I'm not picking on Southern Prepper 1, but it proves the point. That even now, people want more and more and more information. What happens when the email goes down? The power goes down. There's no web. And people still want that information. What are they going to do? They're going to go look for it. That's right. They're not going to sit on their hands, hoping everything works out in their bunkers with their dried beans. They're going to go out, largely a lot of them, looking for trouble. And they're going to keep looking until they find trouble. I've said this before. When the only tool you have in your toolbox is a hammer, you will find nails that needed pounded down. And it's the only thing you'll find. Some have said, Florida Maquis, why don't you talk about Antarctica again? That's a lot more fun. Pardon me. Antarctica? Well, let's think about that. Let's say Antarctica began melting at 100 times the rate that they thought it could ever melt. And in a matter of only a few years, most of the ice was gone. And people wanted to go settle there. The first thing people would want would be maps. You show up there, you get off the boat, you've got all your stuff, all your supplies, whatever you brought with. You're going to want to know where you're going. You're going to want intelligence reports. And you're going to want the ability eventually to communicate back with the real world. Communications and information are going to be paramount if Antarctica ever is resettled again. Some have said, Florida Maquis, why don't we talk about the Stargate and the Stargate network again? That was a lot of fun. Some of the things that you've been talking about lately, they've been pretty racy. They've been pretty, adult. Maybe you belong in a basket of deplorables. Maybe you're irredeemable because of the things that you've showed and the things that you've talked about. We're just going to add a bunch of ophobia to the back of your name. We're going to call you some kind of ism and label you. Does it sound familiar? See, it was a really interesting thing that she said because many people missed the reality of what she said because they got so up in arms in their emotions. I wish I would have covered this when it happened. This was way a long time ago, back in 2016. Here's her exact quote. To just be grossly generalistic, you can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Clinton said right, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. She added, and unfortunately, there are people like that, and he has lifted them up. He has given voice to their websites that used to only have 11,000 people, now have 11 million. He tweets and retweets, blah, 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 blah. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Thought-based exercise time. Okay. Does that disqualify you from voting? Being racist or sexist or homophobic or xenophobic or any other phobic? No. Could you have used these terms to describe the founding fathers who wrote the Constitution? Oh, sure. Absolutely. And if these people that had the websites only had 11,000 people, and all of a sudden they have 11 million, clearly they had the right idea for the website. They just had a communication problem. Sorry about that. You see, this was the best part about this. She called them irredeemable and not America. Even if you accept everything she said is true, that would describe a free country, would it not? Would not a free country, a country that had liberty and God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, wouldn't that be whatever makes you happy? Does it matter? And that's the key to today's video. Does it matter what makes you happy? Some people would be super happy talking about little lines all over maps. Basket of deplorables. I had largely talked about marriage and how there are going to be people out there when they have the opportunity that are going to go out and try to remake the world in their image. And they're going to get involved in people's marriages. What if two people got married because they both found the concept of sex completely disgusting and they knew they would never find anyone else who would want to be together but not do that horrible, disgusting thing? And that was the basis of their love. There would be no consummation, clearly, and no children. So the church wouldn't recognize it. You see my point? You see, it doesn't matter. The reasons why, just like with voting, don't matter in a free society. See, you could vote for whatever reason you wanted to. Let's say you were an Islamophobe and you wanted Donald Trump to protect us from the Islamic invasion. Okay. If these two people want to get married, maybe because they both agree on something besides that. Let's say they both think the modern church is really kind of not to be trusted. And they don't think they're going to find anyone else that believes the way that they do in that regard. They'd get married and then have nothing to do with the church. Could they do that? They sure could. It's up to them. See, married people have a fiduciary duty to each other, but they have no duty to society or anyone else. And those of you out there who enjoy country music or enjoy good lyrics regarding this, read the lyrics to the song All These Years by Sawyer Brown and the song All the Reasons Why by Highway 101. It'll explain it perfectly. Now, you Stargate folks, I'm sure there's a lot of people like, man, if we could only go back to Stargate and Antarctica, there wouldn't be any talk of relationships and marriage and swinger communities and all this other stuff that makes me so uncomfortable. Clearly, none of you watched the first season of Stargate, especially SG-1, the first season. There was SG-1 Atlantis, and then there was Stargate Universe. This third iteration wasn't very good. But the first season, what if I told you it was rated TVMA? It was rated the same as basically softcore pornography. I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads. Go look it up. The entire 12 seasons of Stargate SG-1 is rated TVMA. Netflix is listing Stargate for mature audiences only, and they have a good reason to. They really do. Episode 1 has a very long, very uncomfortable, full frontal nude scene that was entirely gratuitous and unnecessary. The third episode might be the worst. It has something in it that you would have to go look into hardcore pornography to find, just without the imagery. You could even call it somewhat racist. There's a woman, Captain Carter, who is kidnapped. She has her clothes removed from her. They put her in a nice little dressy thing. She is held at knife point. Pardon me. Pardon me. Sorry about that. She is held at knife point and assaulted. And they show it. They don't just allude to it. They show it. It's a felony. What they literally show, felony sexual assault. 2 episodes later, she's infected with some virus that makes her sexually assault this guy. Later on that same season, this character drugs and rapes 2 men. If you think I'm kidding about this, go back and watch. It was brutal. Season 1 could have easily been relegated to the back room at the video store. You know the one I'm talking about? It was that close. Many have tried to get it taken off of places like Netflix because of what's shown. Now, you're really ready to have your mind blown? I've shown this image. And I've shown this image. Side by side. What if I told you one of them was Showtime? I'm sure a lot of parents out there have Showtime blocked for their kids. Meaning you'd have some kind of access code that you would need to get to it, or they don't have it at all because of all of the situations. This scene is from Showtime. This is Marina Baccarin and character I can't remember his name right now. Uncle Mike, basically, was the character in the show. And she's carrying on having an affair with her husband's buddy. But this scene, are you ready for this? Is on Disney. That's right. The scene there is these two characters. Power Man and Power Woman from the Marvel Universe. And it's on Disney. Now tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference? Both of these scenes, whichever one you want to pick, far more tame than what you would see in Stargate SG-1, the first season. This first scene, I don't know how or why they did it the way they did it, other than to just be gratuitous. This was 1994. Things were done very differently, I guess, but the third episode was horrible. The third episode of season 1. Absolutely terrible. What they showed here. And they continued with the theme. They didn't stop. It was, I look back now and I'm like, I wouldn't let my kids watch it. Young kids, not even really teenagers, would I let them watch this? Looking back. So, one final thing about people getting in each other's business. I'd like to send a big thank you out to Jennifer Veterans for Truth for having my back. There was a couple on a field trip in Israel to a museum that decided they were going to take the opportunity of the field trip to have an affair. And it got found out, and the wife of the guy that was involved in this blamed the teacher in charge of the field trip for not policing the parents, for not being the morality police. See, this is already starting. The morality police. If you don't think it's going to be a huge problem, think again. People are going to want to know every little detail about what's going on in all of the people in all their little survival compounds around them. Are any of them an enemy? Are any of them doing things in their compound that I don't think are morally right? Should I go involve myself? Should I go get other compounds on my side and then we'll go confront them and make them either leave or change their behavior or whatever? Because we can't have this around. We already have neighborhood associations that do this, that control what you can and what you can't do on your own property. And with no police and no courts and no 911 and nobody to call, if you're not behaving like your neighbors think you should behave, guess what? And I've got proof it's already starting from Southern Prepper 1 and the intelligence reports to what happened in Israel to this issue here on Disney. See, to Disney, this is okay because it encourages multiculturalism. And she makes a statement about changing the attitudes about female superheroes, even though she engages in that scene. But nothing compares. Nothing compares to the first season of Stargate SG-1. So if you want to talk about Stargate, please bring up an episode and we'll talk about it. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.